Hi, welcome to Declaring Your Destiny. I'm Audra, and here's Carolyn. Joining us today is our special guest, John Dowling from the John Dowling Show. We have had him on before, and we are so thankful, John, that you have come back really to answer the questions of our viewers. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time. Carolyn, start us with prayer, and we're just going to get started on those questions from our viewers.
Yes, John, thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Please
having me.
pray with me. Yes. Father God, we thank you for a beautiful day. Father, we thank you for the victory in the United States last night and that you are just moving and shaking in this country, that you are restoring truth, justice, and righteousness to this land. And we just give you the honor and the glory. Father, bless this video and bless John as he brings us wisdom to just impart wisdom to John of what you want to share with the viewers and with us to so that we can understand what our next steps are. And we just thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, John, we're just going to start right at it. So, Brian, one of our viewers, Brian asks if you would discuss the exiting and cashing out of the investments after the wealth transfer. He has
Sure.
metals, crypto, and foreign currency, and we'd love thoughts on what to do with them respectively after revaluation.
So let's start at the top. I have to cover a few things, Audra, before I get into that, and I'll happily address that. First of all,
Oh,
I want to
sorry.
thank. No, you're good. No, you're fine. You're totally fine. I want to first of all take acknowledgments to the top where they belong. Thank you, Jesus Yeshua, for having us have this opportunity to have this conversation, to even have this wealth transfer, that we even made it this far, because
Mhm.
we had to do a lot of praying in the spirit realm, as you both know, to get this far. And so I want to start with that. I want to thank you, both ladies, and your team for praying over this podcast and making a decision for it to happen, because I know that you don't do that without the proper governance and guidance. And I also want to thank my team of men and women who tirelessly work to bring the information to us from both a prophetic and a human intel, for lack of a better term, level that allows us to put the pieces together to share this with your set audience. So I want to start right at the top and give acknowledgments. That being said, I am not a financial advisor. Thank God. Don't want to be. Does not constitute as financial advice. I'm just giving you good information that you all have to use for your own discernmental authority and ability. Self-governance is the key. We're going to talk about that a lot today. Now, Audra, before we get started, I did tell Carolyn that I was going to cover one issue. So then I'll do this, then we'll go to your question with Brian, okay?
Great. Mhm. Sure.
I said I was going to talk about the med bed, so let's start with that.
Oh, that's right.
We do have an update, so I'm not evading your question. I just want to cover that. So let me know if you both can see, or when you can see this. You should see it
Yes.
momentarily.
Yes.
So we have an update from my friend Jerry, the Marine. That's his code name. Anybody who's in the military knows what that's about, having code names. He has direct relationships with Walter Reed. We talked about that on our last podcast. And so I asked him for today, hey, do you have any updates on when we're going to be in a med bed? And what he told us is that the med beds are going to be starting in military hospitals to begin with, like Walter Reed and many, many others across the country and the whole world, depending where you live and are watching this. Excuse me. And then President Trump, basically, there was a lot of med beds out in these hallways, so they confiscated them from the bad guys, so the bad guys couldn't get a hold of them and manipulate them and hijack them. So he's got them quarantined. They're already in a lot of commercial hospitals throughout the country that the public would go to, but they're in back rooms being preserved. The military is waiting for President Trump as the commander in chief, now becoming president-elect again, to give the signal for the public. So we will start in military centers, hospitals, then migrate over to actual commercial hospitals grades, and they will replace the other technology. I'm told sometime first quarter of next year to be conservative. Could be sooner, but I'm going to go under promise and over deliver. Say the first quarter next year to be safe. The picture is to symbolize what I have been told the med beds actually look like. You can see the chamber. It's very wide and very deep. It's mostly comprising of silver. You can see these glass encasements. So when they enclose on the individual, they're high and deep. So they use light and frequency therapy that helps with antibacterial properties, and they also help for anti-claustrophobic, because I get claustrophobic being tall in small spaces. I'm sure some others do as well. So they've thoughtfully engineered these med beds with that in mind to mitigate that. So they'll be high and deep, so that pretty much anybody of any height or weight can get in them without any constriction issues. And I want to correct the statement that I said in the last one when I was talking about the cells that control your aging. It is, in fact, telomeres. So I want to correct that. So this is what we have been told is an accurate depiction of what they look like. No, it's not just sci-fi, as somebody said. Yes, they showed them in the movie Elysium in 2012 with Chris Evans and all that, but that's because it's predictive programming to what they actually are. So this is a good sample of what they will look like. Okay. Now that we've done that, I can go back to your question, Audra. So to Brian's question, so I'll say what I said again. I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I wish to be. I will only tell you, Brian, what my plans are, and you can use that for whatever you want. My plan is to exchange the currency in banks, tier 1 banks, not redemption centers. There are no such thing. That's guru talk. There's just regular banks, HSBC, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, whatever. Okay. Then I will convert those monies into what I call an irrevocable common law trust. There's two types of trusts: revocable, irrevocable. Revocable means that if you want to make changes to it, you can make changes along the way. Irrevocable, once it's set, it's set. It cannot be changed. That's the short of it. There's more to it, but that's the genesis. I will diversify into precious tangible metals: gold, silver, platinum, palladium, copper, other currencies that will revalue in 2025, like the Thai baht, like the Venezuelan bolivar, like the Colombian peso, like the North and South Korean won when those two countries merge. And then I will be buying land with a water source. And then I will move into other cryptos that will be asset backed on the ISO 20022 digital ledger technology DLT system that the BRICS are already using. So hopefully that answers Brian's question.
I do have a little follow-up there.
Sure.
If you don't mind,
problem.
just to clarify, I know you don't want to go into the irrevocable and the revocable, but is there a reason why that you would choose the irrevocable common law trust versus the revocable?
Yes. So no, I don't mind getting into it. It's just that you could do an entire podcast just on this one.
Well, yeah.
I've done with experts on this stuff on my channel. So it takes some doing.
Mhm.
It depends on your situation. So somebody like me who's currently single, I'm going with an irrevocable trust because I haven't met my wife yet. So I don't want to do a, what do they call that? I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now because there's just too many things in my brain. You know, people, prenup. Thank you. I don't want to do a prenup because I don't morally believe in that. And that doesn't really set the tenor of a relationship very well. It's more of a protective thing. And if you trust God, why are you worried about that? You should know that he would put you with the right person. So an irrevocable trust for me works well because I'm going to get that house, I'm going to get that land before I meet her. And since I don't know when that's going to be, I've set a foundation. Then when I meet her, you know, we do it together. I can always amend that with beneficiaries and trustees versus, you know, two of you ladies who are married, and let's say you're going to be buying property, you're going to be getting a revocable trust. Well, I mean, you don't have to do that, but I'm just saying you could have more leeway with revocable trust because you've already have your spouses. So you're not worried about those marriages going south. But there are a lot of people we talked about last time, Carolyn, when you and I did our first show in whatever, August, September, that we're in a season of the wheat from the tares. So we're having a lot of marriages that are not equally yoked, you know, being attritioned off now. So people have to make that decision, Audra, based on where they are in their life. So for me, an irrevocable trust works really well. For somebody else, a revocable might be better if they're going to want to make changes. If they have 2 kids now and they're going to have 3 kids, or maybe they have 2 kids and one of them is going to grow up and leave the house, like in Carolyn's situation. You know, with a revocable, you have a little bit more play, whereas a revocable, it's kind of more cemented in stone. So you have to really be sure of your decisions when you make that process, when you make that change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Very good.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So John, Sandy asked, when the Iraqi dinar happens, where do we cash them in? And where should we go to keep the money to protect it for God's kingdom and for our survival? And also, that be the same for our silver. And does it matter when you bought the dinar? Because most of us new investors had just purchased dinar notes.
Right. So as I talked to you ladies both offline, a lot of these questions kind of kitty corner each other because it's a similar narrative. So I may be repeating myself. So folks, just bear with me on that. Hi, Sandy. Thanks for the question. Once again, as I answered before for Brian, you're going to go to a tier one bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, HSBC, something like that, US Bank, depending where you live in America, that is wholly designed. It's going to be a wealth management center. So you'll want to be looking for these major banks that have a placard that say wealth management advisors. Those are the people that are going to be tasked with exchanging the currencies. I believe you should hold your precious metals on your person or in a vault that's in a private possession that you control and oversee it. In other words, don't put that in a safety deposit box because by law, once the banks have it, they have possession of it. And there's been problems in the past with banks not wanting to give those safety deposit boxes using that manipulation of language to their advantage. No, it doesn't matter when you bought it, as long as it was after October 2003. That's when there was Saddam Hussein, who was the previous decades ago leader of Iraq. Once he was killed, those notes went out of circulation and are now collector's items. So just if you've been in this new, it doesn't apply to you anyway. You'd have to be a grizzled vet like me in this for a long time to even know about that. So for your purposes, it doesn't really apply to you. You can put your blessings, as I said, into a common law trust. If you're concerned with bigger banks, you can do it in small community banks or locally owned banks like farmers banks, particularly with what President Trump is doing with the farmers, AKA Nasara. That's going to be a good place. I always look for banks that have been around 25 plus years, that have a good standing. They have as little debt as possible. They're community owned. Look for banks that might flag checks over $10,000 and call on them like old school. That's kind of a good sign. Banks that, have held up and have really good ratings with Yelp or Better Business Bureau. But I would change the word, Sandy, from survival to thrival. Your silver is going to be used along with cash to help you maintain the rocky transition from the old system to the new. And then all of your currencies will be used to help you thrive. So we really have to be careful of our words, because what our words are give life. Proverbs 23:6 is a man thinketh, so he becomes. So language becomes, as you both know, key. So think in more of a wealth and abundance mindset away from the survival mindset. Although I understand it, let's start to change that language now to get ready to welcome in the new change.
Okay. And real quick, John, you mentioned farmers banks. What about credit unions?
Yeah, credit unions are viable. It just depends. You just want to do your research. Again, how long they've been in business.
Right.
Are they federally owned? How much debt do they owe to the government? If none or very little, that's a good sign. Are they participating in FedNow or central bank digital currency? You want to make sure of that. You don't want to be dealing with any of that. Banks that are as autonomous and self-sufficient as possible. My point is really the key. Whether it's credit unions or farmers-oriented banks or steel union worker banks, that type of thing, affiliation banks.
Right, because like a credit union that I'm very familiar with is member-owned. So that would probably be more likely similar to what you're talking about the farmers banks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Good question. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, John, are you ready for another one?
Yes, ma'am.
We have one from Juanita, and she's asking when the RV or RI happens and we take our currency in for exchange, will the quantum financial system be in place to have all of our money deposited safely into? And since the banks only guarantee up to $250,000, that presents a problem. So will the quantum financial systems be safe to do that? Will we be issued a debit card, or do you know if we will have to pay taxes on our currency exchange profit? Oh, that's a good question.
A lot of loaded questions inside of that question. There's like three categories. Okay, so let's start at the top. For the dinar and dong, those will be reinstatements, RI, because they've already revalued in the past. So they have a history. But then currencies like the Thai baht, Venezuelan bolivar have not been here before. Those are RVs. So one piece at a time is an elephant. We're taking this. Will the quantum financial system is already in place? It's been in place behind the scenes for years. I've talked to, I want you ladies to remember this comment because I want you to ask me about it later in the podcast. I have talked to both wealth managers and private bankers. I'm going to talk about why that's important later on. And they've all privately admitted to me, the ones I've talked to, maybe about 5 of them in total, that the system's been in place for 6 years. They've been running it. They test this stuff. They're not winging it. You can't change the entire world's financial system and just do it in one day. It has to be run and run and run. Anybody who runs CIOs, who are chief information officers or chief technical officers, will tell you that with their software. So the QFS is already in place, so it's good to go. Banks, here's the thing that people think, because they see the FDIC logo, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, they assume because the banks tell them that it's secure for $250,000. It is not. At best, it's $100,000 because of all the fractional reserve banking that's done in banks. In other words, you take $1, they then loan that out to somebody else and loan that out to somebody else. And pretty soon you have inflation, and you know you have inflation because you see the cost of gas and groceries is all you need to know, right? We've talked about that. So if you went into a bank, and if you ladies have ever gone to a bank and you've seen somebody say, hey, I want $5,000 or $10,000 in cash, that poses a problem because a lot of the banks don't even have that much cash in their system. They have to either vault it out, or maybe they'll say, hey, we'll give you $2,000 today, come back tomorrow for the rest. Right. And so that gives you an indication they don't even have $100,000 to cover. So what we tell people is, I wouldn't have any more right now than you have to have in banks, particularly tier 1 banks. I wouldn't even have more than $3,000 in them. That's never mind 75,000 or 100,000. That's why we suggest going the other way. Having multiple banks is a good thing, right? Because common sense. Here's a good strategy that I'm using that you all can use. I would have at least 5 banks. One for your bills, what's left of that. One for your discretionary fund, your fund money. One for your legacy, which you're going to bequeath. One for your kingdom/humanitarian projects, and one for your streams of income. Because remember, Solomon in the Bible said you should have at least 7 to 8 streams of income, right, Carolyn? I believe that's biblical, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just making sure for accuracy. So having that diversification lowers your risk. So that gets you around the $250,000 or $100,000 secure issue. But again, that's from the old Federal Reserve System, which has already been baked into the Treasury 4 years ago under President Trump during, quote, COVID. So you're kind of mixing streams, Juanita, with that question, because you can't mix the old wineskins with the new wineskins. So with that in mind, the QFS nullifies the need for any FDIC protection, you see? So yes, the QFS will be safe to do that. But again, self-govern, don't rely on other people, take it upon yourself and just diversify your banks like you would your investments. Will we be issued a QFS card? I've heard that we will be issued a debit card, yes, at the time of exchange. I've also heard that we can get somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000 of accessible cash in the new US note to have on hand. You don't want to carry a lot of cash because you make yourself a target. Why do that, right? Most of that money is going to be going into that account or a number of accounts. You're not walking away with millions in cash because I just told you you don't have it. So it's going to be digital. So yes, you will have a debit card is what we're understanding, or some type of card that you can access monies immediately as they process into said account. No, we will not have to pay taxes because you didn't pay taxes on the currency when you bought it. What you paid was an exchange fee. That's the cost of doing business with whatever place you bought the currency, dealer or otherwise. The global tax treaty that was established over 10 years ago decided that all 209 countries would not be paying taxes, as essentially that would create what's called a lottery tax. If you win a lottery today, you're usually paying somewhere between, I think, 50 to 60%. And that would nullify the entire point of this, because what do people do when they get taxed? They don't spend money in the economy. They try to find a tax shelter or someplace to offset it. So that would really hurt the GDP of every respective country. So they decided, as there is no congressional legislation to create taxes for this, it's a non-taxable event. Bush Jr., which, like him or not, is immaterial, when he signed executive order, I think it was 13, don't fact check me on this, folks. It was 13303 or 13309, whatever it was, the executive order that allowed American, quote, citizens to have this currency back in 2003. They did it with the proviso, as I said, of no taxes, because again, it would discourage people from spending money in the economy if they were. So as far as how the banks are going to get paid or how you're going to, what in lieu of taxes, the banks will be charging a 1% basis point. That equates to about $100,000 per transaction. So if you go in once or 10 times, it's a flat all you can eat rate for each time that you go in. And that's how they will mitigate the taxes.
Wow.
Wow.
That's good
That's
to
a lot.
know. Yes, I'm glad I have the notes. Okay, John,
Yes.
Virginia sent a question in on the XRP. And she said that she heard that it will go to $70 or 70 and more. So do you have an opinion on this? And do you think it would be wiser to convert from XRP to silver?
Well, hello, Virginia, and thank you for the good question. I think you're referring to the prophecy of one Manuel Johnson, who I have met before here in California 3 years ago through a friend. We believe it will go well over $100 next year. First, now that President Trump has won, we expect the first mark to be $1, and then probably $15 to $30. Then it will stair step its way up to $70. And she's right, much higher. The XRP is the backbone of the new digital economic system, coupled with gold backing, not pegged, having its own established ETF, electronic transfer funds. With the banks and other institutions that are already utilizing it, XRP has the capacity or capability to be worth in the 4 to 5 figures range easily once it gets going. And now that Trump is slowing down our wealth transfer, he now knows that his writing is on the wall. So we expect him to step down before January in disgrace. I would keep the cryptos and metals a separate topic. I wouldn't mix those streams. They're two different issues. But remember, if you're buying XDC, that's heavily supported by silver. So by owning XDC, you're owning silver. So what you want to do is, in my opinion, is keep your physical metals on your person, as I said earlier, and having your cryptos in a safe wallet. Razor is good. Descent, D''CENT is a good wallet. It has a 24-word encryption. Do not give your password to anyone. That's how people do that. And you're going to get hacked. Don't do that. And it also has a fingerprint encryption. So you have 2 levels of, like, emails have a 2-step encryption system. Similarly, these cryptos will have the same with these respective wallets. And then you keep that wallet on your own person in a safe. I might recommend putting in what's called a Faraday bag. It's an electromagnetic bag that guards against EMPs and cyber attacks so that it doesn't fry your crypto wallet, which is nothing more than a hard drive. It's a portable hard drive. So keep those two worlds separate, the metals and the cryptos.
Okay. So Brenda wanted to ask you, John, she's talking about the foreign currency IQD, and her question is the redemption centers are Wells Fargo and JP Morgan good redemption centers, and do these banks charge fees for redemption and exchange into USD, and if so, how much or what percentage rate? And she also said she wanted to know what to expect when exchanging for the new IQD rate.
Okay, well, this I'm gonna have to interpret what I think she means, not talking to her directly. But once again, as I said before, there are no redemption centers. They're just banks. You have a lot of these gurus who are putting out false information about 800 numbers and redemption centers, and you got to meet with an alien and all this other nonsense. It's absurd. No, I mean, this is unfortunately what's been going on for decades, and those people will be dealt with, by the way, I can promise you. They're not exchanging. Do not go to a hotel. Go to a very real bank, or again, a wealth management center. Yes, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo will be the primary ones. I don't like JP Morgan as far as I can throw them. And I'll tell you why, because I just read this book, Creature of Jekyll Island. It's War and Peace for Finance. It's over 600 pages. And if you knew what the Rothschilds and JP Morgan did to our country, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. So I detest them. But I'm dealing with Wells Fargo because they're not saints, but they're the least of the evils. They're the smallest of the worst, but they were the flagship bank for all the foreign currencies years ago. So I'm using them as a leapfrog. And then once I'm done with them, I'll be moving to community banks credit unions, things like that, as we discussed earlier. So they will work for the time being. They're a means to an end, and they're not the only ones to go to. As I said, Bank of America, HSBC, US Bank, depending on where you live, are viable as well. Once again, as far as the fees, 1% basis point, as we just said. I think if she's, and I don't know, I'm give me a little rope here, ladies. If she's asking about rates, we don't do dates and rates here. So I wouldn't even be concerned about that. I'm going to talk about that later. But I do want to tell her that, and I'm telling your audience, the real rate is in the private sector. It's in the Ministry of Planning. It's not in Forex. That is a programmed, controlled, suppressed rate. The problem is, Forbes and Yahoo Finance and Wall Street Journal and all these people are telling people, oh, the dinar is a scam because their Forex rate says this, but they're lying because they're not telling people what I just told you. And if that were true, why is Iraq right now working to come back to the international stage? Why did Soudani go to meet over the weekend with Erdogan, Prime Minister of Turkey, to make an oil and water deal? Why are they gearing everything up? Why is Israel about to do what they're doing prophetically per Kim Clement, which we'll talk about later? So there's a lot of lies and disinformation to create people. They don't want people to become wealthy. They especially don't want us as God's giving Christian conservative people to be wealthy. They will do anything they can, that's the enemy, to throw it off. This was supposed to be for the military, and then it leaked out. And then when Bush's executive order I mentioned earlier, it got out to the public, it went viral. And so they're trying to contain collateral damage to minimize as much as possible. So just do not focus on anything you see as far as the Forex currently. But as far as the rate goes, I will simply say this. If God can trust you, if he can really trust you, not what you tell people, not what your family thinks, but what God knows, what you're hiding in the heart, right? Then you'll be more than satisfied with the rate of return, I can assure you.
Wow, that's really good information, John. Thank you.
Welcome.
So Sheila asked, she's wondering about a financial institution that is gold backed. Is there such a thing?
Excuse me, I had to do a Carolyn moment with water. watching your podcast all week going, yeah, I do that. As I am human, last I checked. Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. So here's how I'm going to answer that. All the remaining banks, when I say remaining banks, because we're going to see a fallout, we believe Bank of America is not long for this world. They have a lot of trouble. And you know that because a month ago, I don't know if you ladies saw it, 10,000 people in America were affected by not being able to get cash out of the ATMs and had zero balances on their accounts. So that's what they call a bail-in. 16 years, it was a bailout. Now it's a bail-in, which just means the banks can legally take your money without your knowledge or consent, which is why we talk about community banks and credit unions as an alternative. And I know there's people putting in their mattress as well. That's also a viable option. I have cash on hand in my safe, so I get that. But to her question, an interesting thing has been going on for a while. As of October 1st, officially, all tier one banks, those are the banks I already mentioned, the big players, had to go Basel III compliant, which means that they have to show transparency of gold and silver, physical gold and silver to be precise, on their balance sheets. If they don't have that, they're gone. So in a sense, that is forcing them to be asset backed, right? So what we're watching for is to see which banks don't make it in the fallout. I suspect it's going to be certainly Bank of America, and I think some other big banks are going to follow as well, based on the information the big players are telling me offline. So they have to have real metals to support their money, because back in the days of our grandparents, they could go cash a paycheck from their job and they could get a certain amount in physical gold and silver. That will happen again, but it will be somewhat in physical, but mostly in digital form that they can convert however they want. So in that sense, all the tier one banks that will survive are going to be asset backed. That coupled with the QFS that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. This is a lot of information, John. It's very good information. And we have, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, so please forgive me. Kieran from Ireland has a question for you, John, and they ask, where do I buy the Zimbabwe bond, as it's not on sale through currency exchange in Ireland? And when it goes up in price, where does one go to cash it in?
Well, hey, Karen, Slancha. You're representing part of my Irish lineage with my name, partly. So nice to meet you indirectly. I, I hope to get back to Ireland. It's been a long time, and I would love to get over there. Great place, great people. Not just saying that because I'm part Irish, but it's nice to meet somebody who's from there. Yes, it is true. In many foreign countries, it's nearly impossible to get other neighboring countries' currencies. I talked to our channel owner, Chris, all the time, who lives in Cyprus and who lived in London. And Europe has a unique challenge to what we have in America. We, unfortunately, are so entitled and have a glutton of everything that we think everybody lives like us, and they don't. Karen's just underscored that. And so it is a bit of a challenge over in Europe. So we do have a place where you can get Zim bonds. And it's our main part of our channel. It's chakraenergyshop.com, which we'll leave that link in the description at the end of the podcast. And they are a good company to work with. They especially do well in Europe, as I said, because they're over in London. And as this person, I don't know if Karen is a man or a woman, so I'm not going to botch that up. But to their point, it is challenging to get those currencies, or bonds in this case for the Zim. So we recommend that site. They'll be able to get it. We do recommend they get it this month because we're coming into the holiday season and postal shipping becomes a problem here in America. Certainly, I would imagine in the whole of Europe, from what Chris tells me. So I would get that because of those reasons sooner than later. But that is a viable place where they can get it. It's legit. It's very, very good. So yeah, that's the short answer to that.
Okay.
Okay. Hang on just a second, because I want to tell you who asked the question. This is from Edward. And Edward said, how can we know when the currency's value increases? Is there a website to go to? And then he would like to know, after they increase, where do you go to exchange for US dollar, local bank, or a specific location?
Right. Hey, Edward. So again, you're going to go to a tier one bank, AKA Wealth Management Center, which I've said many times before, and you'll know along with the rest of the world. It's going to be all over the internet. We'll also post it on our channel once I go. So he's not going to not know. Everybody will know. This thing will go viral. I mean, you just a little bit of a kindling and the whole world will spark on it. So you won't miss out. There is a place that Edward, if you want, and everybody, I should say, not just Edward, but specifically to his question, he can check. I just told you that Forex right now does not have the real rate, but once Iraq comes back on the international stage and the real rate that's in the private sector Ministry of Planning comes out, that will make its way to the Forex once the public goes to exchange. But there's another way to do it. And I'm going to give a number to you folks. So hopefully I'd write this down if I were you. I'll say it twice. Citibank, who's another legitimate tier one bank to go to, depending on where you live, excuse me, especially if you're in major cities. Citibank has a foreign currency exchange hotline that you can call for all the currencies, all 209 of them. And that number is 1-800-756-7050. Again, 800-756-7050. It's a 24-hour automated hotline for real-time updates. It'll say to you, type the first three letters of the country you want to inquire. So for Iraq, IRA, and it'll come up and it will tell you what the rate is at that given time. So you would just check that as needed and you'll know in real time when it's ready to go.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Okay. Then we have another question here from Chris. Because Craig had the same question that you just answered, John. So we're going to go on to what Chris asks. And he's asking, is the Zimbabwe bond the same thing as the Zimbabwe dollar? And if not, please help me to understand the difference. And where can I buy it from? I don't see it listed on the Exchange of America. And he just, thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome, Chris. I'm hoping I'm helping. Yeah, they're not the same thing. The Zig dollar is the new gold-backed currency along with the gold coin that Zimbabwe has adopted. The Zim bonds are separate. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of an anatomical financial lesson here. It's not that long. A currency is usually assigned by a bank that answers to a government, right? US dollar, treasury, as an example here in America. A bond works where it goes directly away from the bank to the country of origin, and that country is tasked with assigning a value, right? So just to help people know. So the Zim bonds have been put on the side and in circulation for some, out of circulation for some time, until Nelson Chamisa, which you prayed over, Carolyn. I think the Lord showed you that he was coming back into power a couple of weeks ago. Now, to be fair, I did ask you that question, but you still obeyed and did it on your own time frame. So I cheated a little bit, folks. I did ask her, but Nelson Chamisa, you did confirm that the Lord is coming back. We believe he's coming back sometime in the first quarter upon President Trump, because President Trump's working with him, along with Elon Musk, and you know that by Zimbabwe using Starlink. You see the gold ties Chamisa wears. You see the gold ties Trump wears. Chamisa made 20 promises for Zimbabwe. Trump made 20 promises. Countries copy each other. Okay. So at that point, when he's back, the Zim bonds will be tucked in, integrated into that ZIG dollar I mentioned. And Edwin Mngao, who's corrupt, like a lot of the world leaders, which we're going to talk about a little later, is going to be removed with a lot of the other politicians around the world, like a popular, this is abutting to Chris's question. You have a popular country in Venezuela, the Bolivar, that people are big fans of because they've heard so much about it from the gurus. They have Maduro right now, who's corrupt, but he's going to be replaced with Juan Guaido next year, and that country will flourish. So you're seeing a series where the deep state codes, the end codes are here. The cabal is surrendering. You're seeing resignations happen. You're seeing deaths happen. God is stepping down the time of the corrupt leadership, and he's bringing in the right godly leadership like Nelson Chamisa. So that's the difference between the Zim bonds and the ZIG dollar coin. So just hold on to it. And when he comes back, we'll have some idea when those are going to redeem. Now, what I was told by the banks that I've talked to is they have a department for currencies, and then they have a separate department for the bonds. So they're going to treat them differently. So.
Wow, that's good to know. I'm excited. And yes, the Father did say he's coming back. So we're excited about that too. Okay, so Lynn asked, I wanted to know if a bank is the only place to sell or exchange the foreign currency, or could you also sell your foreign currency through online platforms? And is selling your foreign currency the same as exchanging your foreign currency?
Well, hello, Lynn. I have a cousin named with your same name. So right off the bat, I like you. That's actually a good question. I like these critically thinking questions because they're a little bit more out of the box and unconventional, a little bit deeper thinking. That's what I encourage my audience knows to do because we've got to think differently in this time. So to your question, Lynn, you can exchange them at the bank, specifically wealth management centers, but she's right. You can also sell it back to the places where you bought it initially. A lot of the dealerships or currency places for sale, and there's many of them, especially in America, they sell them, but they also buy them back. So you are holding the cards. You can go and use the two sides as a bidding war. You go to the place where you bought it and see what they will do for you. Then you go to the banks, you see what they will do. You ask to see the back screen rates, and then that gives you an indication of what each side is going to offer you. Then you have to make some discernment and decide which one you're going to go with, or maybe one exchange you go with the dealer and the next one you go with the bank. It really all depends on the circumstances that you're facing. But yeah, compare the prices and situations, use it to your advantage because you are holding the cards, not the banks. And this time, we're in a historical wholesale change of a season where the banks need us more than we need them because they need this currency because it goes back to the countries of origin. They don't have printing presses the way we do. So they have to get it back in circulation. So yeah, the tables have finally turned. So hopefully that answers that.
Another one from Kim. This is a long one. So when the reevaluation happens, where is the safest place to redeem the foreign currency? And will it be in US dollars or digital crypto? And then she asked, will we be able to take money with us or does it have to be in the bank? She's not one to trust banks, so would love to convert some of it into silver. And then also when buying foreign currency, does it have to be uncirculated or circulated? And should it be a certain denomination? And how on earth could a bank redeem $1 trillion Zimbabwe currency? So those are good questions.
Yeah, I like some of the part of it. I don't like the thinking and the second part of it, but I'm going to correct on that one. But thank you, Kim, for the question. Same answer of where to go with the banks. I've already said 100 times. And you're going to go in US dollars because we're going to have time for the US dollar. You're not staying in the US dollar anywhere. You're using it as a leapfrogging to go to the other things, right? Gold, silver, other currencies. It depends on what God has you to do. He may just have you be in cryptos, or he may just have you be in one currency, or he may have you. You really have to seek him for what he wants, right? And I have some questions at the end to address that issue, but you can always convert it into metals or cryptos later after the exchange. It doesn't matter if it's circulated or uncirculated. That's a good question. It used to be a topic. That was a thing that a lot of gurus put out 7-10 years ago, that it had to be uncirculated because if it was used currency, they wouldn't take it. That's ridiculous. If it's legit currency, they're going to take it. All you need to concern yourself with is that you verify the currency. And the way that you do that is very simple. Okay. It's called a UV blacklight. I didn't have a chance to grab it on my safe. I apologize. But all you got to do is go to Amazon or eBay and you type up currency blacklight, right? You can say foreign currency blacklight and you'll have a bevy of options. The range is usually about $15 to $30. Years ago, when I bought my currencies or bonds, if you bought enough of it with some of these places, they would give you a free black light. It's like $18. And I got it. And it makes all the difference in your life. You just go into a dark room. It takes 1 second. So you take an Iraq dinar, a $25,000 denomination note, you put it in a second, it will light up the $25,000 denomination. On the back of the rupiah, it lights the back up with all the watermarks and because a lot of these currencies have very elaborate features. On the Zim bonds, you'll note that all of them have yellow striations, like if you were testing a yellow indelible marker to make sure it has ink in it, it looks like random lines going throughout the back of the bond. And that's how you know it's legit. But don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Don't invest don't invest finances in these currencies and not take the diligence of getting a black light and ensuring that you have legitimate currency. Because if you think you're going to walk in with even one bad note and get away with an exchange, you will not. That's constituted as fraud, and they're not going to take kindly to that. As far as how could it possibly redeemed? You're thinking the wrong way, Kim, when it's concerning the Zim. They have a special department, as I said before, for the wealth management centers for exotic bonds. They will do a managed payout, as we understand, over the next 7 years because of the value and size of the scope of the Zim bonds. Zimbabwe absolutely has the gold to back them. I've told you that before in our podcast, Carolyn, before you and I and Audra met. They have, bar none, the most gold in the world. Anyone who's traveled there knows this. They have lush waterfalls. Yes, agro checks are also good. I get that all the time. Don't be concerned about the rate. They will be very, very good along with the Zim bond. I'll remind you, Kim, that they turned down China's offer in August to mine metals in Zimbabwe for $300 million. They said no, because they want to mine it themselves. That should give you some indication just how much gold they have and how they want to be sovereign on their own. They absolutely have the gold to back it. Chamis is coming back, and the banks are going to have a separate department. So they're going to do what's called a 7-year managed payout. Because it's so much, it'd be hard to ferret it at one time. So it was a very smart nationalistic decision they made to go away from China, who would want to robber baron if they could. So people are thinking and lack too much in this community. They need to start changing their mindset into abundance. Just because we've never been here before doesn't mean that we can't get here now. So that's kind of a lack mindset question there, but there's the answer to that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had myself on mute. I had a little background noise going on in the house.
Very good.
Yes. So this is really good. And I love that you're encouraging everybody, including myself, that we need to change our mindset, that we need to be thinking we're prosperous. We need to believe for prosperity. So with that, here's the next question, if you're ready, John.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yes. So Kathy and Suzanne asked, they would like to know how NESARA will handle all types of insurance.
I'm pausing because I'm not mocking the question. It's another seminal example of what I just said about mindset. You're trying to take the old mindset of insurance because it's all we've known. So I understand that. But we have to walk away from everything we knew and retrain our thinking. You're mixing the old world and the new world. Nasara doesn't need insurance. That's the whole point of med beds. They're free to the public with the bonds. So there's not going to be a need for medical or dental insurance because it cures, yes, folks, I saw the questions, it cures everything. But what it doesn't cure is a faulty mindset. That's the work you must do before you get into one. And that's the work you must do conversely with this wealth transfer. So insurance is a scam, just like the dollar. With common law trusts and the aforementioned QFS funds that are going to be coming into you, you will create your own wealth. No one will have to do it for you. So if you get into a car accident today, you got to go through insurance companies. You got to fight with them. Who's at fault? Did you have a dash cam? All the rigmarole, the scams that they're laughing at us. Then they push back. They delay. Why? Because they're making money on that interest fraudulently the longer they wait, right? With Nasara, there isn't any need for more insurance because if you got into an accident, God forbid, you just make that if it was your fault, let's say, you make that person whole. You pay them a lot more than they would get from insurance companies. You can do it in a second on your phone. They get paid. You can take care of them if they had downtime from work, or they can just go into a med bed and get healed and get reset right back to where they were, or better if they hadn't presumably gone into a med bed yet. But the whole thing about insurance is a scam, just like the dollar, just like the fraudulent medical industry with big pharma. Hasn't anybody noticed that CVS's and Walgreens and Wrong Aid are going away left and right all over? I'm seeing it here in California. They're boarding up like packing out of Dodge. It's because we're decoupling that old system. So insurance isn't even an issue anymore. We will be the insurance. We will make ourselves and other people whole in an example like that. In a car accident. We have a weekly report on our weekly wrap up my audience knows about, and we talk about every week the deaths and resignations, the layoffs, the firings, the people going to prison for human trafficking, all these different things, because we're trying to show you it's the change of the old guard. Likewise, insurance will be a thing of the past. We won't need all this other stuff with homeowners and medical and car insurance. That whole thing is a complete boondoggle. So the way it will handle it is it will just remove it wholesale.
I'm sure a lot of people will be very happy about that.
Well, we all will.
We all will be. Absolutely. The insurance companies won't be, but we certainly will.
Well, I don't care too much about them, but yeah.
That's right. So I have a question from Ernest, and he asks if you, John, could give him at least 3 reputable names for buying silver and zig and dong and dinar. And if you could speak to the process of how and where to begin the exchange when the time comes for revaluation. I know you've answered that question already, and I've heard that you cannot go into any bank and the process. Oh, Ernest has heard that he cannot go to any bank and the process will be difficult. No, we know that.
Laughable. That's comical to me. Now, before we get into that, I know Kim asked about the black light. I apologize, Kim. I didn't have time to grab it on my safe. But again, if you go to Amazon or eBay, any of those places, just type in currency UV black light. You ladies can do it now if you want. You will see a bevy of options. It's between usually $15 to $30. I usually recommend getting the middle one, $25, just to be safe. It's wholly designed for currencies, and you just pop it in there in a dark room, and within a second, you will know if what you have is legit or not. Now, to Ernest's question, okay, for precious metals, we recommend a couple different companies. We have great relationships with Miles Franklin and Birch Gold, who's a new affiliate. Donald Trump Jr. works with them, so the Trump family is endorsing them. For currencies and bonds, we recommend our inside relationship, chakraenergyshop.com. What you heard about not exchanging the bank being difficult, complete lie and guru nonsense. Do not go anywhere other than a tier 1 major bank. Again, a wealth management center. Gurus constantly lie and make up this process seem difficult. Why? Because they want you to go through them. They're trying to control the stream of information. That's how you know. Anybody who tells you, oh, if you don't go to this group and you don't do it here, you won't exchange. Really? Tell that to the Treasury Department and the major banks, and good luck with that. Let's see how that works. How are they going to get a better rate than the Treasury Department? Ain't going to happen. So they want you depending on them. It's a very simple process. Let's use some critical thinking, folks, like Ernest. Why would the banks make it difficult to do business with? Don't they want you to go there? They're going to make it as easy as possible to work with them, not hard, because why would you work with them otherwise? That doesn't make any sense. So you're going to go to a wealth management center. You're going to take one note, take the smallest denomination you have. If it's dinar, if you have a 5K note, take that. If you have a $25,000 note, take that and ask them to see the back screen rates. You will know at this point by what I mentioned with Forex or the Citibank number, you get a good approximation of where the rate is at that point, right? Then you can check to see if they're giving you the real deal or not. And you can also use your discernmental authority. If you don't like the person, you don't feel safe with them, just get up and go to another bank. There's plenty. Again, you're holding the cards. It's actually very easy. It's not hard at all. Folks, it's just an exchange. Don't make it any harder than that. When you go to a grocery store, you buy your food, you pay them and you leave. It's simple. It's transactional. This is no different. Don't make something easy hard. Mindset. Once again, mindset. Now, for Ernest and everyone else, for my audience, they know when it comes time for me to exchange, I'm going to go into a Wells Fargo Wealth Management Center in my town in California. Well, the next town. We've already made an agreement with one of the wealth managers. We're going to do a video. We're going to simulate the exchange. We're going to go through all the ins and outs. Do you need an NDA? Are there taxes? Are there this or that? And we're going to, same things we're talking about, I'm going to do there. And you're going to hear it from him, not from me. And you'll see how ridiculously easy that it really is.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Jim asked, I've been following you recently, John, and you have talked about the Venezuelan Bolivar.
Boulevard. Yep.
Okay. And I'm interested in purchasing some, but have been researching it, and I see there's different types, and there's you can say those, and one of them's the digital. And could you please explain the differences? And he said he knows you're not a financial advisor, but if you were to purchase any, which type would you get and why?
Well, thanks, Jim. Good question. Thanks for following us. We appreciate the support. Now, and this gives me an opportunity, thanks, Jim, to address these ladies' audience as well as mine. A lot of them sort of intersect. I got hammered last month by somebody because I said to trust God for which ones, and they want to, as if we didn't know. We do. We don't want to be we want God to be the pilot in this. We don't want people just taking our word for it. We want them to go to God, Yeshua, and get the answers from him, because it's better than anything we can do. But to kill two birds with one stone, I am going to share a screen with you both. And we're going to go into, oh boy, I hope I did this right. Let me see here. Okay, hold on one second. Let me know when you ladies can see this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Bolivar, its origins. The name Bolivar is a combination of the Spanish words bole, meaning river, and var, meaning bank. It translates to riverbank. As Venezuela has Basque origins, it is a Castilianized form of the name Bolivar, which comes from the Basque word bolu, meaning millie, and ibar, meaning meadow, riverbank, valley. So a river of funds. A monetary unit, Bolivar, is the name for basic monetary unit of Venezuela, equal to 100 centimos. The name Bolivar became widely recognized and respected after the life of Simón Bolivar, a Venezuelan military and political leader who helped liberate several South American countries from Spanish rule in the early 19th century. Bolivar is known as El Libertor, or the liberator of America. The country of the Bolivar is named after him. So I just want to give a little quick history lesson on that to show that we did our homework. So we have three denominations for diversification. We like the Fuerte, and the reason is because it's one of the highest denominations currently available. It will be the biggest return. And that doesn't mean that that's what you should get just because of like, oh, I'm going to be rich and greedy, so I'm just going to get the high ones like people do with Zimbabwe with 100 trillions. But if you're asking which is the most wealth rich, I guess you could say, that's our recommendation because of that. But, all the Soberano, the digitals are all good. I treat my philosophy on this, if he's asking me, is diversification, right? Like if you have precious metals, we always talk about having junk silver, right? It's 90% alloy. You can use that for everyday purchases when you're cash, if it should run out, God forbid. The coins are for, you could feed and clothe your family for a month, right? Your gold is strictly your wealth preservation. You want to touch that at all costs. Unless you were buying a house at some point, you could do it with that going forward. So in the like-minded mindset of diversification, having the Soberano, the Fuerte, and the digitals are good to have, just like you would have with the dinar, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100,000 K notes. It just gives you diversification for options. But the most lucrative one, I think he's asking, we believe, will be the Fuerte. It's funny, financial advisors, there are some, but most of them don't even know this because they're trained by the banks to sell you the toxic debt, the derivatives, not what's good for you, but what's in their best interest. So, but to his point, that would be what we would recommend.
Okay. All right. And Lizette, she has a question. She wanted to know how to transfer tax-free from an IRA or a 401k to purchase metals.
Right. So this is where guidance becomes paramount with our trusted sponsors that we mentioned with Birch Gold and Miles Franklin as example. Both of these companies have been around for many years. They know the ins and outs to convert an IRA, a Roth IRA, 401k of different types without penalty or taxes in the conversion process, whether you've purchased it on your own or through a company. Often, many times people get a 401. I had a 401k in the late 90s when they were doing 4-to-1 matching. They're not doing that anymore, just like banks aren't giving you 10% interest. I don't even think you get 1/10 of 1% interest anymore. So it's pointless. So we would recommend going to them. They have the knowledge and the expertise to navigate you in that accord. We'll leave those links in the description as well for people to inquire further. I will say that timing is key, ladies, and to Lizette, hope I said that right, because one thing I know as a professional musician, where I am licensed, is timing. And we're about to have tomorrow, the 7th, the Fed is going to meet and do a rate cut. They're going to do a 25 basis point rate cut, 0.25%. And that sounds like a good thing, but it's not, because that drops the dollar's value further. So you're going to see more hyperinflation until Trump returns. And even then you're going to see it. So if you are thinking about liquidating in some capacity or all of your 401k into precious metals and whatnot, I recommend starting to do it now, because the cracks are really going to start to show November all the way into probably April next year. So.
All right. So Rochelle asked, there's numerous Zimbabwe dollars and bonds, and which ones should we purchase and where's the best place to buy them? And where's the best place to exchange dinars, dongs, and bonds? The best place to get the most value for our silver without having to pay lots of charges or fees for testing and taxes.
Sure. Thanks, Rochelle. Tier 1 banks and wealth management centers, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but it is what it is. Those are going to be the places. You have to do your own research and decide which ones to get as far as Zimbabwe. That's not our job to tell you that and decide for you. It's the same question as Jim's about which one for the Bolivar, right? A lot of people are jumping to the 50 trillion and 100 trillion for Zim because they think that's the most lucrative. And that's true, but the $1 billion notes are going to be just as good. So I'm going to answer that question along with other people's questions with questions I have for them towards the end, but I want to stay on topic for right now. I'm not saying that this person is, I'm talking to the whole of the audience here, mine and yours. Don't be concerned about greed or avariciousness. That's a FOMO mentality, fear of missing out. Just rely on what the Lord is telling you to get. You'll be more than happy. ShockerEnergyShop.com for the Zim bonds. As again, I said, especially in Europe, not everybody carries it. Not everyone is going to have the same or equal amounts of wealth, because not all of our tasks from the Lord are the same. What God has for you, Carolyn, is different. What he has for you, Audra, what he has for me, what he has for Lizette and everybody else. So it's a customized plan that God has for you. Treat it accordingly. Again, Miles or Birch Gold will give you the best value. Most of the states now are, I think it's like 42 or 45 states aren't even charging taxes. Even here in California, they're not charging taxes for metals purchases. So for the most part, that shouldn't even be an issue. They should be totally fine with not having to pay that when they go to get the most get the most return for their investment on the precious metals.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for the person's name on here. I don't have it, but this question is, we've bought some Iraqi dinar and Zimbabwe bonds, but being new to this, are asking for John to show some examples of each and discuss the denominations that he feels and that or this person understands. He's not, again, giving financial advice. This person just wants to know or wants to be a little bit more strategic in when they're buying what they're buying.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the accountability on this one. Apologize, I was running late for today's meeting, so I didn't have a time to go in my safe and pull out the notes. But I will tell you, have an array, in my opinion, between as far as the dinar, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 25, 50, and 100,000 K denominations, if you're able to do it. Go in the bank again with the smallest note and start a relationship. If the relationship and the rates are right and your discernment is good about the wealth manager, then come back and exchange once the rate is at its peak. We believe once it goes publicly, you're going to have 90 days to exchange based on historical replication. When Kuwaiti dinar exchanged in the early 90s, it was 90 days. So based on that history, you'll have 90 days. But we would say about the 30 to 45 day mark should hit the apex of what the dinar should be worth before it starts to fluctuate down to its eventual rate. Again, if you don't like that bank or that banker, just go to another bank. There'll be plenty of people to vie for your business. Now, what I do want to say, as I said I was going to talk about this, I want to cover it. I talked about wealth managers and I talked about wealth management advisors and private bankers. I didn't tell you what the difference was. Let's cover that in this discussion. This will be a bonus one for this person. So when you go to the bank, most people are going to be dealing with a wealth manager to exchange. I've said that a bunch of times. But what does that mean? Well, a wealth manager is specifically trained by the bank and the Treasury Department primarily to conduct said exchange. They're licensed to do that. To have an account with a wealth management account means a $250,000 minimum balance to be maintained in said account. Now, I said earlier that they'll tell you the FDIC they cover 250, but I don't believe they can even, personal opinion, I don't think they can cover 100,000, right? But that doesn't mean that when you open an account with 250 that you can't move it around. You can move it around. You could keep 250 and start to migrate it into other, credit unions, farmers types of banks, and private banks, basically, or publicly owned banks is what would be deemed as. You can start to move that money around, or you can move it into a trust. Because when you have that trust, the bank only has most banks are only going to ask you the trust creator and the names on the trustee. They really don't have by law the ability to ask you, depending on the state, too much other information. So that gives that trust a certain amount of protection and anonymity. So if you're concerned about putting 250 into an account, you could create a trust account inside the bank and give you a little bit of a peace of mind with maintaining that minimum balance, right? So that's the short version. A private banker is a whole nother ballpark. That's a $10 million minimum balance. And with that, that sounds like a lot of money, but I know you're going to laugh, but where we're headed, that's peanuts. But most people have never seen or heard that. So they think, oh, that's so much. And to some people it is. To some people, $1 million is a lot. That's fine. Some people, 10 million is. Some people, 100 million. Some people are $1 billion, which I'll ask questions to that point later. But with a private banker, it's a $10 million minimum. And they're basically your own personal private banker. So I'm just making an example, folks. A lot of like the Saudi wealth princes and stuff, Shah of Iran and Mohammed bin Salman does this. If he wants to buy a car, he calls a private banker and says, I want this car. I want a Tesla. I want an Aston Martin, whatever. They buy it and it shows up at the house. Kind of like, what's that? Carvana, I think, does that. We can buy a car and they deliver to your house. It's kind of like that. If you want to buy a house, same kind of idea. They work for you pretty much exclusively because to this point, there's only been a limited amount of people who had that kind of wealth. So they cater to wealthy individuals. And you'll get special perks, free concert tickets, free sporting events, free private, X amount of private hours on a private plane, X amount of first class tickets on a commercial plane. They're going to throw a lot of come-ons at you because they want you to keep the money in their bank. So that's basically the main difference between a wealth manager and a private banker. I just wanted to answer that question.
All right. So Kurt wants to know, he said, as you may have found out in your research of the Zimbabwe bonds, their denominations go up to $100 trillion bond.
Mhm.
Should one go big or go home, or pull back to some of the more modest denominations? And then he asked, could you show some pictures and some samples of each currency and discuss the range of denominations? It would be great.
Hey, Kurt, I laughed when I got this question. I like that. I'm a swing for the fences type of guy myself. I believe in all or nothing in what I do, but that's just me. Not everybody subscribes to that. So it sounds like you're in that park. And yes, 100 trillion is the max highest denomination for the Zim bonds. That's correct. And again, I apologize, I didn't have time to go in my safe and grab some. But if you go to our site, chakraenergyshop.com, and you just click on the Zimbabwe tab, you can see pictures right there of all the different denominations, the 100 trillions front and back, and that'll give you a good visual matrix of what they look like. It's very simple. You have to decide, and this is a question that's kind of a foray into the questions I'll have for the audience. You have to decide what your wealth tolerance is as far as that. I've always recommended, again, having a diverse amount of everything, as I'm a big proponent of balance in life, but that's just me. So I don't know if that's what he's asking, but you know, it depends on what, Kurt, you want to do, what God has asked you to do. And if he's got you to do big giant projects, then yeah, the 100 trillion is probably right for you. If it's solely just, and I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying if it's solely for, you know, greed and avaricious needs, then I don't recommend that. So just depends on the situation.
Good advice. Okay, this is a question that we have had, but apparently a lot of our viewers do have the same type of question. But Flora's asking you, John, she knows how to purchase the Zimbabwe bonds, but doesn't know where to sell them in the future. What exchange do you recommend?
Well, again, the tier one banks will have a separate department for the bonds. They'll treat it differently. It's a very simple, easy process. Depending on how much you have and what denominations, they'll either, if you only have one or two notes, they'll probably do a one-time payment. If you have multiple notes, then they'll probably do a managed 7-year payout. So it's just very situational.
Okay. And I think, John, that was our last question.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that you have some questions that you want to ask of the audience or our viewers. So you please go right ahead and ask our viewers.
Sure. Thank you. And this question goes to your audience as well as mine, one and the same. I think we talked about mindset. Here's what I'm going to recommend to the audience. This is the number one thing that I see in this community that's not going right. You can take all the action. You can buy all the cryptos, the foreign currencies, the precious metals, the bonds. You can do all that stuff and take action. But if you don't change your mindset, you will have a poverty mindset. I have a saying, it wasn't my saying. The Holy Spirit, I think I told you this, Carolyn, several weeks ago. I was walking in the field, and the Holy Spirit said to me, a lottery mindset is a poverty mindset. Let me say that again. A lottery mindset is a poverty mindset. If you're getting in this to get a big pot, and you're gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and you know, my grandmother used to say your eyes are bigger than your stomach. You're gonna be broke in 2 or 3 years, and you're gonna wish you never had this. Mark my words. There are some people watching this right now who say, "Oh, that'll never happen to me." Yeah, it will. I guarantee you, there are gonna be people watch this who don't change their mindset, go in with fear and lack from the old world, and go into the new wineskins with the old mentality. Not gonna do well for you. You must change your mindset. Ladies, true or false? Doesn't the Bible say that we as believers, Christians, men and women, are kings and queens?
Yes,
Do kings and queens in those times live in poverty and squalor and rags?
No.
So why are we? Why are people calling themselves Christians and thinking like paupers? Yes, okay, you've been poor to this point. Let that go. You've got to let that go. Stop thinking like that stinking thinking. That'll get you in a lot of trouble. Which leads me to my questions. Number one, what is your wealth tolerance? As I said, to some, $1 million is a lot, to some, it's not. What can you handle? What does God want you to have or be able to handle? If you got $10 million tomorrow or a week, whatever, when you get it, Have you given thought to how you're going to bless your family? I don't mean, oh, I'm going to give it to my mom, I'm going to give it to my cousins. Have you written out a list of the number? Because I have. I've done it with my family. I know most of my family's only made about $50,000 a year. If I gave them $25 million, I would flood the engine. I would blow their head out. They wouldn't be able to handle that. But if I give them 250,000 or 500,000, that's 5 to 10 years worth of salary. See, that's a mindset thing. You have to think bigger with the end in mind. Are you going to be a blessing or a curse to your family? And you have to do it as a one-time thing. Having the trust, by the way, means you didn't pay them. The trust did. So they don't even have to know who gave it to them. Never let the left hand know what the right hand's doing. It's number one. Number two, what's your legacy succession plan for your family, future generations, right? That kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. And I think the bigger question I have for people, and I've said it before, is part of the mindset, attitudinal change. Can God trust you? I mean, can he really trust you? Not, yeah, you can trust me. I don't care what you tell us or you tell your family. He's going to see what you're hiding, right? So if God can trust you, the sky's the limit. If he can't, the limit's the sky. So that's what I want your audience to be challenged to think about.
That's a great way to end this presentation, because I think before people invest, they need to have the right mindset. Thank you, John. Such good wisdom. I have learned so much today. John, this has been totally awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome, but I'm not done. There's a couple more things I want to show you real quick, if that's okay.
Okay, good. Yay.
Yeah. This will support, this is my final thesis. So my shout out to my friend Brooke, who helped me create these PowerPoint presentations. They're just a couple of slides. I want to show your audience and you, because people say, well, we need a timeline or we need to see it visually, right? Like was asked before. So we understand that. So for a multitude of reasons, we've created a timeline. So I'm going to show you one slide of what we said was going to happen that has now happened. I'm saying we as a team, and then the markers that we're looking for to go forward. So people have an idea what we're shooting for here. Okay. So here is, here's the first one. Let me know when you ladies can see that.
Yeah, ready.
So we said that gold needed to, we said this earlier this year in 2024. Let me preface it by this, folks. This year is about three key things. One, the wheat from the tare separating, unequally yoked, right? Relationships, marriages, the like. Two, vindication. I think we've been seeing that. And three, things that people said would never happen will happen. Like the person who thinks, how could the Zim bond actually get that high? And you're going to find out how that's going to happen. Gold needed to hit 2,000, we said. It did. It needed to stair step to 2,500 an ounce. It did. Here are the dates. 2,000 gold, December 14th last year. 2,500 gold, September 16th of this year. Having gold at 2,500 pre-ounce hurts the Western central banks and helps the BRICS nations dismantle the dollar. We just saw the BRICS meet in Russia about a week and a half ago, I think almost 2 weeks now tomorrow, and they came out with a unit. Notice that's got 6 zeros on it as well. And those zeros are going to come off. They're backed by 40% physical gold and a series of bonds. Just gave you a big hint right there if you're paying attention. Silver, we said, needed to hit $30 an ounce. It did that solidly last month, October 12th. It hurts the big banks when you short silver. Did you know, folks, every ounce of silver you buy, and I asked the banker about this to confirm, it shorts the banks $1 billion on their balance sheets. The Basel III compliance we talked about earlier. Massively important. You notice that central banks are buying gold hand over fist, but they're not talking about silver because they don't want you to know about it. Because gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of the people. So it empties the Western exchanges that manipulate the price of paper contracts. If you notice silver goes up and down, it's because they would paper it down with with paper, gold, and silver certificates. What that means is you're holding the paper certificate, they're holding the actual metals. You want it the other way around. Okay, we said that, or Kim Clement said, nothing, 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 something, right? So let's do a little history lesson. In 2010, when Obama/Shortero came here in America illegally installed during the corporation and the cabal, he appointed a gentleman named, here you can't see, Nouri al-Maliki, bad guy. The dinar was supposed to happen in 2010, 12, 13, and 14. He kept it from happening. The Marine that I mentioned earlier about the med beds, by the way, nice tie-in, worked for the Department of Defense under 5 presidents. Obama was one of them. He was in a private press secretary room with Josh Ernst, the press secretary at the time, and said, quote, "The currency reset will never happen under my watch." Enter Trump, everything changes, right? So Maliki is a bad and a good guy. You say, how can he be good? Well, I just told you how bad he is. But here's the thing, right? Genesis 50:20, what was meant for your harm will be used for good for the saving of all souls. So it's good for us because if he allowed the reset to happen 10, 12 years ago, we're not having this conversation today. And nobody who's asked questions would even have a shot of getting this. So God used somebody evil to extenuate the timelines to give the most amount of God's people a chance at the wealth transfer, right? Because he knows there's people who don't have dinar, don't have dong, don't know about the zim, don't know about the bolivar. This is going to go on and on and on. So this wealth transfer is going to go on for the remainder of Trump's term for the next 3-4 years. So we're going to have this season of raking in the harvest, right? So then you take the first guy, Haider al-Abadi, good guy, meant well, told the Iraqi citizens he would risk his life to bring this about. He didn't. He still feels badly about that. Some of us still believe he's been working with the current prime minister. And enters in Abdul Mahdi, a nothing burger, just wasted time. Then they brought in about a year later, trotted in Mustafa al-Kadhimi, another nothing burger. Now this guy, the nothing, something per Kim Clement, the late great Kim Clement. So you have Benny Wilson, shout out to Benny Wilson, a guy I got to know, the late great Benny Wilson, who was you love him or not, he had a lot of good information about this subject. He prophesied years ago that a Mexican-looking man would be the prime minister of Iraq and would make the revaluation happen. He's now doing that. So we now are in the season of this getting ready to happen, right? We've talked about this, Carolyn, many times. We said that Israel was going to attack Iran. They did on April 15th of this year. What they did was they did a drone strike. They wanted to see the defense capabilities of Iran and where their vulnerability weak spots were for a time such as this. So now what they're doing is they just attacked Lebanon. They hit the last of the deep state factions today or this morning, their time. We're now that Trump has won, what we see happening is we see Iran doing their part in provoking Israel. Israel is then going to hit the secret nuclear power plants and missile sites. A cyber attack is not good enough. They have to hit the whole thing. You're going to see a lot of explosions. Everyone's eyes are going to be on Israel. Guess who they're not going to be on? Iraq. It will be, as Kim Clement said, a why now moment because nobody but us who knows what's going on sees it coming. God's in the details. We talked about the interest rate cuts. We said that everybody else was calling for a 25 basis point cut in October. We called 50. They did. They did a 50 basis point. We're not the only one who said it, but we stood on that. They did a 50 basis point. This helps to weaken the dollar index against the foreign currency market, right? The weaker the dollar does, the better other currencies do. That's what Forex is predicated upon, since somebody asked about that. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go to the next screen and show you what we now see that needs to take place. Okay. So we are looking at gold hitting 3,000 by the end of this year and silver around 45 to 50 at the end of the year. We talked about the marks that already happened. Okay. We see after Israel hits the power plants of Iran and what we just discussed, the next move is going to be China doing a short 2-day invasion. The fake news beast media, cabal media, is going to make it look like World War III, but there were talks of wars or rumors of war, keyword or key phrase. That has to happen. What we're going to see is Putin finish off optically Ukraine. Then he's going to do a short run with Xi on the Republic side, not the CCP, into China, Taiwan. This will free up Vietnam enough to break them out of communism to reinstate the Vietnamese dong. Now, you have to ask yourself a critical thinking question. Once Trump enters January 20th, what's one of the first things he's going to do? He's going to power up the military, right? He's going to rule with an iron fist. Do you think it would be in China, Taiwan, or China and Russia's best interest to attack Taiwan when he's back? No, You want to do it when the drawbridge is really down or perceived to be. So we see that happening this year. So boom, boom, boom. Okay. And then I'll show you a final video with what Kim Clement said about basically the dinar and dong, if you can read between the lines. Now, once President Trump is back January 20th, he gave you a big hint. You've both seen it. He said, we're going to have a massive celebration in America on Memorial Day of 2020, May 30th, 2025, all the way to the 4th of July, 2026. There's your Jubilee, Leviticus 25, 9 to 11 and 12, right? Once he comes back in, that starts Nasara with the elections. That would be the 120 days for Nasara. Now some people have already experienced Nasara. I'm talking about the whole of society for it to roll out, right? You ladies with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. Last 2 points. We need to see a 10% drop in the bond market, specifically the treasury market is what I'm talking about. We believe, per the different data sets of people, that will be sometime in 2025. That is going to spike gold and silver. We believe silver will be somewhere in the $100 to $200 range next year, and gold will just go up from there. And this will continue, especially with BRICS backing their new currency, the unit, with gold. That will just make it more and more valuable. We're waiting for the appeal on XRP to be dropped, with a counter appeal to be dropped off the XRP from the SEC. As I said, once Gary Gensler now knows Trump's going to win, he's going to be heading for the cheap seats, we believe, before January. He's not going to wait till Trump comes back. Well, it would humiliate him. You notice a lot of these CEOs leave out the door early because they're trying to protect their, quote, paper legacy. We should see XRP anytime now that Trump's in go to $1, then 15 and 30, and stair step up from there, as we said before. Okay, last thing now I'm going to show you from the late, great Kim Clement that we talked about. And I want to show you this. This is a prophecy that he did several years ago on June 14th, 2014. Now, if you'll bear with me a second here, I'm going to share the sound so that you can actually hear it. That would be a good thing. And I went to the last 2 minutes, so just pay very close attention, ladies and everybody, to what he said into relation to what I just told you, okay? Here we go. Turn the volume up here.
Summer, take it. For thus says the Lord, I will prosper my people. And during the fall there shall be many that shall fall, and many that shall rise from the dust. The earth is standing prepared. I shall take it, for the summer shall bring forth much in the temperatures. Strange July, hypnotic November, and oh, Christmas, where winter shall say, and me, I will make them happy. For God says, I have chosen each season to manifest something. My will shall be done, and it shall come to pass that I shall bring sign after sign, and in the fall, that which comes down is that which was able to be shaken, and I will build and release the resources, and in the fall will show you whom I have chosen to pray for and guide this nation. You shall rejoice, for it is my man. It is my chosen. David, says the Lord. Come on.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Laid it right out. What happened in July? The assassination attempts on President Trump. Strange
Yes.
July. Hypnotic November. When we look at the elections, we're seeing states that we would never think would go red went red. You're going to see things this month that you never thought you'd see. The why now? So we're in the season. They will fall in the fall, and that means the dollar as well.
It's exciting times.
Very.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we just, great. I'm so thankful to you for answering, to taking the time to answer the questions, but I also want to thank our viewers as well, John, that they just, we asked, hey, what are some questions that you might have for John? And boy, they didn't hesitate 1 minute. They were on it and sending us questions. And so we really hope to our viewers that we've answered really a lot of the things that you were all, really had questions about. And we just can't thank you enough for taking the time, John, to explain this all to people, because it can be very confusing, and a lot of people don't know that the exchanging is so easy to do, and what denominations to buy. It's awesome that you came here to help our viewers out, and even me and Carolyn. I'm sure, Carolyn, you've learned some things, because I know I certainly have. So we appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. And I want to give all honor to the Lord and honor to the team that helped me put this together, because nobody does this alone. And again, if you're looking again for the bonds, currencies we talked about, we have a link in the description for that. And again, same with the precious metals. We definitely recommend, if you don't have any precious metals, get in that game as soon as you can. Just even a little amount. Silver's still relatively inexpensive. This is the time before it goes up. And again, 401k IRA conversions that was asked. Trust the professionals. Go to our links there. They're very knowledgeable, friendly. Mention my name that you referred by me. You will get what they call off-book pricing, kind of like off-the-menu pricing, and they'll just take care of you. They already do anyway, but they'll just take it to another level. Also, I don't normally do this, but we're not in normal times. Our team prayed about this a lot, and we have come up with something we think can be very beneficial to the communities right now. We came up with a personal coin of mine.
Yes.
And the reason I agreed to that is because I prayed about it and I said, God, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not much of a self-promoter, but it's not about me. Like this whole channel, I didn't want to do this channel. This was an act of obedience. I've told you that, Carolyn and Audra, respectively. We thought there's 3 reasons why we agreed to this. And that link will also be in the description in case anybody wants to do it. 1, commemorate this rare season we will never see again. I mean, this is a once in an eon, 2 eons. This hasn't happened since the time of Joseph, literally. And that was just Egypt and Israel. This is the whole world. 2, because we can pay it forward. So if somebody wants to buy this coin, they can do it for themselves. Or let's say they have enough silver, but they have somebody who's elderly or has disabilities and can work limited hours and doesn't have the means to do it, understandably, they can buy a coin as a humanitarian gift and give it to somebody and pay it forward. What we are doing on our side, ladies, which I'm going into this, later this month, Chris and I have a monthly podcast, kind of a channel maintenance kind of thing. And Chris is going to give me like 5 or 6 coins, and we're going to draw a hat from the raffle. So anybody buys one, goes in the raffle automatically, and it gets to be entered to win a coin. And the idea is to give it away to the people in most need, be solution oriented, right? Put your money where your mouth is. And the third and final part is when I have my guardians one day and they say, Dad, what did you do during this critical time? I can tell them, I can show them these videos, or I could just say, here's the legacy. This is what we did. It's part of a inheritance, a treasure, as I think Number says, a good man leaves a wealth inheritance to his children. That's a way to commemorate what we did. So that link will be there as well.
Wow.
Well, that is great. So you all get in on that for sure. You might win a coin. I love that, John. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
That
You're
is
welcome.
wonderful. So, Audra, do we have anything else?
Just like John said, we're going to put all John's information in the description box, everything about declaring your destiny, the daily 10, all of those kinds of things. That'll be in the description box for you too. And don't forget, on the daily 10, if you haven't been there, folks, we are trying to get up to our 2,000 viewers, and we're getting there, plugging away. So you check out the daily 10 when you have a chance to, and like and subscribe there too. Sorry, I had to put my little push in there too, John.
Understandable. I promote you on my Telegram channel all the time. So we love it.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. Well, thank you all for joining us today. This has been so informative. We thank you, John, and we will see you soon. Don't forget, Jesus loves you and we love you. God bless.
God bless.